Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is the Esoteric and Facetious, no relation, and I talk about subjects I'm passionate about relating to pop culture, social justice, the human experience, and how the three interact from a Black, bisexual, millennial perspective. Everything, and I mean everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt, as I'm simply a college student who loves thinking critically and discussing the subjects I'm interested in. However, that being said, my youth shouldn't be your sole reason to critique my views if you disagree, unless it's truly relevant. If you want to debate any points I make, let's have a civil conversation. This is going to be my 8th upload, so feel free to check out all my video essay podcasts I've already uploaded if you enjoy this one. I have a playlist of all of them called Binge Watch My Video Essay Podcast, which is linked in the cards, description, and the playlist part of my channel. Also, feel free to check out and subscribe to my cover channel, A Pop of Culture Sings, which is linked below, linked in the cards, and is also featured in this channel's channel section on this channel, where I will be covering my favorite songs. I'm a singer and I want to grow my abilities and share my passion with the world through YouTube. I love singing and music, especially throwback R&B music and pop, so definitely check it out if it interests you. New uploads will be made to each channel weekly. Also, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to follow me for updates on the channel at A Pop of Culture Pod on Instagram, at A Pop of Culture Sings on TikTok, and _Pop of Culture on Twitter. Okay, so if you saw the title of this video, it's going to be titled something like Dear Black People, Dear Fellow Black People, Dear Black People, Fellow Black People and Allies. And basically, this video is going to be a spoken word I wrote in 2018 about my feelings about the Black community. I obviously am Black, and this video is going to be me reading out a spoken word that I wrote in 2018 about my feelings about some issues that I've seen within the Black community, and talking through them and just giving you my thoughts. And yep, here we go. Every year, the president of the so-called United States of America delivers a State of the Union address to the American people. Well, to the American people who have access to television or the internet and who can understand English. The State of the Union address includes budget, the status of the country, and grants, and or allows the president the platform to advertise their own personal agenda. Consider this a Black State of the Union address, where we're going to discuss why I think the Black House is broken but not in disrepair. To start off, what is the Black House? The Black House is not just properties owned, rented, and occupied by Black Americans in the United States. No, the Black House isn't even just the people within these Black spaces. No, the Black House is the culture that links us all together throughout the diaspora, whether we like it or not. The Black House is the will to go on and try to attain success despite suffering systematic oppression day in and day out. The Black House is the ability to hope for a better future when all you see is traumatic and bleak. The Black House has survived trauma and duress since before our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were even thought of. In order to understand why the Black House is broken, we must understand how each part of the Black House works for or against the prospering of those within it. First, we begin with the foundation. The foundation of a building is the part of the building that provides structure and stability to the building and its inhabitants. It is arguably the most important part of the building because without it, the building is unstable and unsafe for living. You may ask, what is the current foundation for the Black home? I believe the foundation of the Black home currently is religion. Throughout the diaspora, this element, though often taught to us by the oppressor in order to garner submission and obedience, has proven to be very useful for the inhabitants of the Black home during times of duress. Religion acts as a foundation for the Black home because it has provided a sense of stability in times of struggle. If I'm going through the unspeakable, it is extremely palatable for me to close my eyes and wrap my hands together and pray for something better. Religion is a powerful force in situations of struggle because it gives someone the feeling they can reach beyond themselves for help from a God that is much more powerful than any earthly obstacle. However, I question if this element of the house is sound. As you look at the foundation of the Black home, religion, we start to see limits which bring us to another area of the Black house, the ceiling. The ceiling is one of the highest always visible parts of the house from the inhabitant's perspective from within the house. While it is the highest point visible, it limits or restricts the inhabitant's viewpoint of anything beyond it. While religion gives people a sense of security and strength, there is a limit to this sense of security. While you can tell your loved ones, I will pray for you when they are facing situations of horror, is this method of support as effective as providing them financial support or offering them a physical shoulder to cry on? Though, of course, these are not mutually exclusive. Is hugging someone who has lost someone to tragedy and stating, God won't put more in you than you can handle, truly helping them to reconcile their situation? The reason religion is not only the foundation of the Black home, but also the ceiling of it is the way that it removes the humanity from even the most minute interactions. At its most harmless is scoffing at people dressed in casual clothing on Sunday morning and thinking of them as less than for not worshiping your God. Posts that feature cherry-picked optimistic scriptures and selfies from service with captions about how you're blessed and highly favored because good things happen to you, as though those who are experiencing not so good things aren't so blessed and highly favored, no matter how you spend the night before. However, as I think back on my experiences, I realize that every limit brought on by this foundation is not so innocent nor pleasant. Having something to believe in is a great thing when it is something you can do in isolation. However, these beliefs did not come out of a vacuum, so their impacts won't stay there either. For example, when people are pressured to be a cheerful giver when they can barely make ends meet, when they end up making clergymen rich because they buy into preaching that states that giving money to a building will guarantee them a blessing they will not have room to receive. While they give in the hopes for this blessing to their higher power, the money goes to this person who dispels seeking material things while riding around in a luxury vehicle on a ride to their huge home in designer clothes. Right. With this prosperity gospel prevalent in many churches, it is easy for the believer to not only have a false sense of power through prayer, but also have a false sense of assuredness. If you succeed, it's God's plan, but if you fail, it was not God's plan, further distancing someone from the idea that their future is tied to their effort, and closer to the idea that their future is tied to the wills and wants of an eternal being. This can lead to a lack of effort because one can believe that the eternal being's plan will be done regardless. Statistics show that the most religious people are also the most impoverished and undereducated. Is this an accident? Not only can people have a false sense of assuredness in their future in this life, but the next. If you believe death is only a tunnel into eternal paradise, are you really going to value making this life the best possible? Perhaps this is why our house's kitchen is filled with food full of flavor but devoid of nutrients. Also, slavery. Perhaps this is why we are at higher risk for stroke, heart attack, diabetes, and hypertension than our counterparts. Also, slavery. This false sense of assuredness can not only cost people their logic, but their life. While it's popular to tout scriptures like Isaiah 54:17, which states, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper," we mourn the destruction of Black bodies not only on the sides of roads. I wrote this in 2018, so it's crazy that after the passing of George Floyd, RIP, this is even more relevant. It's becoming more relevant. But also within the four walls of our churches, where little girls are blown to smithereens and innocent worshipers are made martyrs to acts of hatred in the past and the present. One might venture to question if this foundation and ceiling might need replacing, since they cause negative impacts or have the ability to cause negative impacts on their inhabitants. They worship an entity who, if true to its claims, lay dormant during colonialism, slavery, segregation, and in the heat of state-sanctioned violence and systematic oppression against Black and brown bodies. Recently, well, not so recently, since this was written a long periodically time ago, Tina Campbell, half of the famed gospel group Mary Mary, stated that she voted for Donald Trump because he aligned with religious views despite his anti-Black past. He aligned with her religious views. Inhabitants of the house are being used as pawns in their own destruction by a system that built them to believe, to obey. We move from ceilings to doors, as doors decide what is left in the Black house and what is to be kept out. A culture of Christianity condemns premarital sex, but pressures Black men to engage in heterosexual sex to prove their masculinity, which has the ability to lead to an abstinence is the only way rhetoric, which has the ability to lead to lack of sex education and a vilifying of women making their own choices with their own bodies. We have the ability to be left with single Black mothers who fall victim to the church, which can appear to be a system of support where their own family might be lacking due to shame associated with children being born out of wedlock. And this can unfortunately lead to clergymen asserting that their sons need to be taught how to be men, not human, but men, out of a sense of homophobia that has been conditioned into their own psyche. Women who simply want their sons to be better men than their fathers end up being agents of homophobia, have the ability to be agents of homophobia. Two men who fear crying and lash out violently when emotionally provoked have the ability to lash out violently when emotionally provoked. Have to make disclaimers. Thus, the ceiling has the ability to limit facilitating growth within the culture. As a people marginalized throughout history, it's no coincidence we love rhetoric that makes us feel like we are the chosen, the anointed. But when we use this rhetoric to lift ourselves up while also against our own people who don't fit these requirements, it's a double-edged sword. It feels great to feel like an eternal, all-powerful being loves us unconditionally. But when we use this assuredness to enact pain on people of our own community, any good is negated. We can be the most loving and friendly people until we meet someone who doesn't fit our own narrative or experiences or background or identity. We love that family member that is full of charisma, especially if he does hair and nails or if she will line you up. They're such a character until they try to bring their partner to the barbecue. We're all a big happy family until you throw words like trans, gay, or atheist in the mix. If you bring a significant other of another race to a function, expect either an exorbitant amount of praise for doing so or hatred, while Black love is the template for perfection, even if bridled in conflict. And of course, people could not care. People could be accepting and tolerant. But I'm just talking very broadly. Inhabitants are ostracized by others in the house day in and day out. But as long as we wave our hands, catch Holy Spirit, and dance and tell our neighbor how everything will be all right Sunday morning, it's all good. This makes me wonder if this practice is simply a vestige of the past. This is no attack on Christian values, but this is a critical analysis of the Black community at large. We move to windows, which offer inhabitants a vantage point through which to see themselves and the world. Perception is everything. There's a reason Esther Rolle, who played Florida in Good Times, demanded she have a husband on screen, even though he died. Sorry for the 38-year spoiler. There was a narrative that had spread on the media and the culture that Black men were not in the home, and she wanted to show it wasn't true. There was a reason it was so powerful to see a Black doctor and lawyer with a successful family, and it was groundbreaking at its time. Though, obviously, some people present within that sitcom have had some controversies to their name. It was and is groundbreaking. If all inhabitants see of themselves is incarceration and failure, that narrative pervades the culture and can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When all residents of the Black home see, or a lot of what they see, are slave narratives and civil rights reenactments, these events are shown to be our only contribution to society and perpetuate a narrative that progress isn't still to be made. Variation in the Black narrative cannot start at or end with Black Panther. I love Tiffany Haddish. Shout out to Tiffany Haddish. Tiffany Haddish has been in so many things. I've seen her in Self-Made. I've seen her in Solar Opposites. And I've seen her in Tuca and Birdie. So this is no shade to her. I love a Tiffany Haddish or a Cardi B. Side note, I am not here to say whether Cardi B is or not Black. I love a Tiffany Haddish or Cardi B as much as the next person, but we have to question why the powers that be push those who align with our strongest to stereotypes to the front of the paper. And there is nothing wrong with people aligning with stereotypes, but that's something we can discuss and evaluate. The windows of the Black home don't only show how those outside the house see us, but how we see ourselves. Light-skinned, dark-skinned, 3C, 4A, 4B, 4C. Choosing whether or not to relax one's hair is made to be a decision of self-love or self-hate. Also, wearing wigs, what type of wig someone wears, things of that sort. You talk white if you talk with clarity and dexterity, but you are ghetto if you use African-American vernacular English, which is stolen by others on a daily basis. We can be our own most critical judges, constantly causing for each other to prove our respective blackness, or fear our black card will be revoked. Doing good for yourself makes you bougie, but doing nothing contributes to the narrative that inhabitants are lazy. Even insinuating that those of us who are derived from chattel slavery don't have a culture, while we are simultaneously filed away as people of color with others of differing experiences and narratives. So when I hear the quote from Issa Rae, shout out to Issa Rae for doing it, I'm rooting for anyone Black, I question if unity can be found within such incessant division. However, as I conclude this State of the Union address to all my Black folks, I want us all to understand that from my point of view, the strongest part of the Black home is the structural beams that have withstood efforts to end us. We can see that the Black home is clearly in need of some repairs, but as I have stated before, I don't believe it is entirely in disrepair. When I think on the history of those throughout the diaspora, though despite popular belief, we were not all born as kings and queens, I think that there is power and strength in those who endure the unthinkable and live to tell the tale. The plight of our ancestors is not over. We are still here. The responsibility isn't on civil rights activists long gone laying in boxes 6 feet under. It's our own. Thank you. So that is my spoken word that I wrote approximately 2 years ago, and I think a lot of it is still relevant to today with everything going on. So those are some of my thoughts on things that I would call in-house issues. Of course, there are a lot of these issues that are discussed here have roots within white supremacy and racism, which is obviously an issue we need to discuss, and we need to dismantle white supremacy. But I just wanted to put that out there, see what y'all think, if y'all think these issues are valid, if you think other issues are valid that I should bring to this platform and bring to attention. Thanks so much for watching. As I've said before, I upload weekly videos. I try to do multiple uploads every week on pop culture, social justice, and human nature. So if that interests you, feel free to subscribe, to like, comment, and share this video. And as I said earlier, if you want to keep up with the show, feel free to follow me on Instagram at apopofculturepod, on Twitter at _popofculture, and on TikTok at apopofculturesings. Feel free to check out my cover channel. And feel free to let me know any other topics you'd like to see me discuss. And we have reached the end of the video. So if you're having a good time, and why wouldn't you be having a good time? In the center, you'll see a button you can click to subscribe. To your left, you'll see a playlist with more video essay podcasts from me that you can check out as they're released. And to your right, you'll find a playlist of all of my covers that you can binge watch. And if you'd like to support me, and if you'd like to support the show, feel free to leave a tip. My Cash App is linked below. There's no pressure. But if you do choose to tip the show, you will be featured in the credits of all of my videos. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. Love you all. Bye.